Hello everyone! In this lesson, we will learn about two settings, permalinks and pagination. So naturally, two questions come to mind. What in the world is a permalink and what is pagination? We are going to answer both of those questions, and right now, let's begin with permalinks. Okay, so here's the home page of my website, and if I navigate to the Travel Archive page, and then click on the Trip to the Midwest post, I'm taken to the detail screen for just this one single post. And most importantly, if we look up in the URL bar, the address bar, this is the permalink or permanent link for this blog post. The idea is that this link will not change. So even if we changed the title of this blog post to my unbelievably amazing summer trip to the Midwest, even if the title changed, the URL should stay the same. So it would still be the root of our URL, and then the year that this post was created, and then the month, and then the date, and then the original title or slug. We want this URL to be permanent and set in stone because as search engines start indexing our website, and as we start sharing links to our posts, either via social media or email, we want those links to work even years into the future, because nothing is worse than a 404 error screen. So let me show you an example. So if we linked someone to an incorrect URL, so if I just type a bunch of gibberish here and push enter, obviously WordPress has no idea which post I'm referring to here, so we see, oops, that page can't be found. Okay, and the idea is that if our links are permanent, hence the name permalinks, if they don't change over time, we don't need to worry about that page not found screen. Now you might be thinking that permalinks sound really simple, and you might wonder why I even bothered to bring them up. Well, what I want to show you now is that WordPress gives us the flexibility to change our permalink structure. So for example, maybe we don't want to include the year and the month and the date. Maybe instead we just want the root of our domain and then the title of the post. Or maybe we just want the root of our domain and then the year and then the post. So maybe we want to leave out the month and the day. You get the idea. There are countless different possibilities of how we could structure our permalink URLs. Let me show you what I mean. So if I jump into my admin dashboard, and in the left-hand sidebar, hover over the settings option towards the bottom, and within this menu, look for permalinks. Okay, now from this screen, we can choose between a few different settings. By default, WordPress chooses the day and name option, and that's the structure that uses the year and then the month and then the day, and finally the name or title of the post. But instead of that default option, we could use month and name. So that includes the year and the month, but leaves out the day. Or we can use my favorite option, which is post name. So you can see that that doesn't use the date at all. It's simply the root domain and then the title of the post. So if I click this, post name, and then scroll down to the bottom and click Save Changes, we see this success message, permalink structure updated. And now if I jump over to the front-facing portion of my website and click on Travel, now when I click on Trip to the Midwest, take a look at the permalink. I like this option because this is fairly easy to type or remember, but it's totally just personal preference, so feel free to choose whichever permalink structure you like the best. However, I do want to stress that you should really stick with one permalink structure. So don't go around constantly changing your permalink options, right? Because the entire idea of a permalink is that it is a permanent link. It shouldn't change over time. So when your website is still relatively new and you don't have tons of content yet and you haven't really been sharing the post URLs on social media yet, and maybe the big search engines like Google haven't really had enough time to index your site yet, in the beginning, it's okay to experiment with the different permalink options that we see here. But once your website has been around for a while, I don't recommend changing these settings. Also, it's worth mentioning that if you have an idea for a permalink structure and you don't see it here, right? So for example, maybe you want the root of your domain and then just the year, but not the month or day, and then the title of the post. Well, we don't see that as an option here, so that's where this final option named Custom Structure can come into play. So for example, you will notice that as I click on these different options, this area right here changes each time. And what that's doing is it's showing us the code that WordPress uses to represent these example structures. So for example, when I click on day and name, here's the code that represents that, but we can customize that no problem. So if I just want the year and then the title or the post name, let's just delete month name and day. Okay, and then let's scroll down and click Save Changes. And now if I jump back to my website and refresh the category travel page and click on Trip to the Midwest again, perfect. The URL is simply my domain, and then the year, and then the title. So the idea is that you can really fine-tune whatever structure you want within this custom structure field. Alright, so at this point we understand what a permalink is and how to customize our permalink structure. Now let's change gears and let's talk about pagination. So first we need to ask ourselves, what is pagination? Let's begin by looking at an example of pagination in action. From my home page, if I click on the recipes link, behind the scenes before this lesson, I created a bunch of new recipe posts. So dried apple chips, orange scones, banana waffles, blueberry cinnamon, you get the idea. And if I keep scrolling down, after we scrolled by 10 blog posts, now down here, we have the option to go to the second page of posts. So this screen that we're on right now showed us the 10 most recent recipe posts. And if we want to see the older posts, we need to click on to page 2. Okay, and that concept of only showing a certain amount of posts per page, instead of just showing all posts on a single screen, that's referred to as pagination. We are splitting up the results into multiple pages. So each page shows 10 posts. So right now I'm on page 2 of the recipes archive, and if I scroll down to the bottom, I can click to go back to page 1. Okay, now by default, WordPress will include 10 posts per page. But we can customize the way pagination works. So instead of 10, what if we want there to be only 3 posts per page? And then users would need to click to go to the next page to see the next 3. Well, that's super easy to set up. So if we just jump to our admin dashboard and look in the sidebar under the settings option, within this menu, look for reading. And on this reading settings screen, we're looking for this blog pages show at most field. By default, it's set to 10, but we can just change this to 3 or any other number that we'd like, and then click Save Changes. And now let's jump back to our front-facing website and click on Recipes again. So now we see dried apple chips, orange scones, banana waffles, and then we have to go to the next page to see the next 3. So page 2 includes blueberry cinnamon scones, berry medley, feta chicken salad. If we want the next 3, we have to go to page 3. You get the idea. So this is totally personal preference. It's completely up to you how many posts per page you want to use. And I encourage you to experiment with different values on this reading settings screen. And that's actually going to bring this lesson to a close. Let's keep things rolling, and I will see you in the next lesson.